when I was, again, in the Middle East in April, someone said to me, can you imagine if you got saved and then you didn't know a single other Christian?
Yeah.
You didn't have access to the many Bible studies that we have here in the United States, or you don't know where to go to church, or no one in your family knows Jesus. And I think about my own life. I work for a ministry, and I have the Bible in my heart language, access to lots of teaching and discipleship. And there's days that I feel discouraged about faith. And so imagine how much more for someone that gets saved, has an encounter with Jesus, but is so thirsty and hungry for the presence of God, for discipleship, for fellowship with other believers.
Yes. Thank you for watching the MAPS Global podcast, where we discuss leadership and culture within the convergence of worship, prayer, and missions in your neighborhood and in the nations.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the MAPS Global podcast. It is me, your girl, Mimi, and today, I have my girl, Janie, with me, and I'm so excited to have you. Welcome, Janie.
Thank you. I'm excited. I've never been on the MAPS School podcast, so
welcome.
I'm
We're so excited. We've actually been really looking forward to having you on the podcast because you're so fun. But the reason we have Janie on the podcast today is because we are going to be sharing testimonies, right? We are wanting to bring you guys into what is the Lord doing in the nations. What are some of the things that we're seeing? What are some of the amazing, miraculous things that we are praying for in the prayer room, in our different bases across the earth, and actually seeing the Lord answer those prayers? You excited?
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Every other week at MAPS Global Headquarters, we do a big staff meeting. And we hear our overseas bases that come together and give updates and testimonies. And that's what encourages and stirs me here on staff at MAPS Global. And so I'm excited to just share some of those testimonies with everyone.
Yeah, it's actually crazy because what we were saying is we can become, and maybe we have even over familiar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we hear some of these testimonies over and over. Maybe we tell them to people. My role in partnership, I'm oftentimes telling donors these stories.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to sit down and kind of walk through one of these stories and give context and even remind our own hearts how amazing these stories really are.
Yeah, and the importance of what we do, right? Like, it's not just an ethereal thing. We're actually seeing the Lord move here. We're seeing the Lord move in the now.
Yes,
you know? Okay.
Totally. Cool.
Yes. So you've brought some stories with us?
Yes.
You've brought some stories with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So take us away.
Great. I'm going to start with one that is set in the city of. So I'm just going to read through it and then we can kind of go through and
let's do it.
Highlight some things. So the story is set in modern day Eurasia. So a foreign missionary couple planted a church not long ago, a small congregation of local believers. These missionaries woke up one day to the news they were being kicked out of the country. So they appointed a local pastor. But the question is, who will take up the responsibility to shepherd the church and take it forward in the next generation? So enter Mirach, a 19-year-old believer who is filled with youthful zeal and a yes in his spirit. But Mirach is a lump of clay, freshly cut from the block that needed to be formed and sculpted. But who will provide the training that will come alongside his zeal? Are there any quality, affordable training programs that even exist in a region that is overwhelmingly Muslim? Well, the answer is yes. MAPS Global, based in Eurasia, offers one of only 2 theological training programs in the whole country. And scholarships provided by MAPS Global partners allow these students to attend completely for free. So Mirach enrolled and began the process of being shaped into the vessel that God would use. The potter's hands had found him now on the wheel, ready to be molded. So while far away from his family, living in a much larger city, Mirach found himself taking shape thanks to daily time in the presence of the Lord in the prayer room and hands-on discipleship. He completed the program as a star student, and from there, God started him on the next step in his journey of formation. He felt called to go back to his hometown and start a prayer room just like the one that he had been formed in for the past few months. The first day that it opened, the presence of God brought in a man off of the street who heard the gospel and was saved that very day. So through the MAPS Global Training Program, Mirach went from a young man with passion, zeal, and a dream to an equipped leader launched into his assignment. The 19-year-old who came in as a pliable yet soft lump of clay has been forever transformed by the potter into a vessel ready to carry out God's purposes for his city.
Whoa.
Yes, amen.
Powerful. Amen. And so the story of Mirage, like why is this miraculous? Why is this a story that people need to hear?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I think that oftentimes for those of us that live in the West, maybe those of us that are more familiar with Western Christianity, sometimes we can hear this story and think like, wow, that's so cool. This guy went to a training program and got formed and now he's launched into his new assignment. But the story is a true miracle because it highlights the power of discipleship. And especially in a predominantly Muslim, in the 1040 window context, discipleship is something that is really, really important and really key, because when a Muslim accepts Jesus and leaves their Islamic faith, the transformation, discipleship that has to happen it's a high cost.
Yeah.
And sometimes here in the West, we're able to put our faith into our back pocket, kind of like an accessory.
Wow.
And in the 1040 window, in these Middle Eastern contexts, deciding to follow Jesus is an entire lifestyle change. And so discipleship is especially key.
Yeah. It's actually, you make a valid point. I just think about the cost of following Jesus in a lot of these Muslim countries where the gospel is still yet to be self-replicating, where there's still to be a self-replicating church.
Yeah.
The cost is not just, oh, I just accepted Jesus, but it is, I've got this revelation. My family believes something completely different. If I live in this way, if I accept Jesus and really start following him and making my proclamation loud for others to hear, it could actually result in death.
Yeah, totally. And so the cool thing is I got to actually meet Mirach back in April when I was in the Middle East for our 50 hours of prayer and worship.
Yeah.
And one thing that I learned by going overseas is that your religion is not just, again, an accessory. It's a whole way of life.
Yes.
Religion is, your familial connections are based upon religion. Socioeconomic connections based upon religion.
Yeah.
Your entire way of life is centered around your Islamic faith.
Yes.
It's stamped into your passport.
Right.
What religion you are. So converting is a huge deal. And it's a long, scary journey that we just don't appreciate the cost of what it means to really follow Jesus. And one thing that I thought was really interesting when I was in the Middle East was I was speaking to our base leader of the Middle East missions base, and he just talked about how there is this misconception that people don't get saved in the 1040 window. And he just encouraged me by saying, like, people actually get saved easily, meaning the power of the gospel. Jesus transforms hearts easily. All we have to do is confess with our mouth and believe in our hearts, and we will be saved, right? The issue is discipleship. You can get saved from the internet or from a gospel presentation, but think about just the long, hard journey of actually understanding the Bible and being taught the way of Jesus. I mean, that just takes time and effort. And so the fact that Mirach got to join the training program and be discipled, it's just, I think a bigger deal than it would be maybe here if you got saved in the United States.
And the possibility that his family might have been one of the first families to be part of this church that was planted by this missionary family.
Yes.
Right. And so there isn't a long history of showing people what it looks like to actually grow up in church. There isn't this history of purchasing Bibles for each other. There's just the reason that we need people to actually say yes to disciple people overseas is because there is still a necessity for people to be shown the way of how to actually walk with the Lord in the day to day.
Yes.
And so one of the challenges that is highlighted here that I don't think is just common to our base in Eurasia is that there's workers that come from, there's missionaries that come from overseas, wherever they may come from. They establish a church and then they get kicked out.
Yeah.
And what happens afterwards when they get kicked out. How do we keep the church moving forward? Which is then the aha moment of like, oh, sherbet, we need to be raising the next generation
Yes.
of people who will actually continue preaching the gospel in their local language. We need to train them up, and to hear that there's only MAPS Global has one of 2 training
Yes.
schools is shocking to me.
In this massive country with millions of people. And I think when I was overseas back in April, the scripture, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few,
Yes.
that came to life to me in a new way, because like I mentioned, people are getting saved, but there's a lack of workers to actually walk alongside these Muslim background believers in their discipleship journey.
Right.
And I was researching some stats as we were preparing for this podcast, and only about 3% of the world's missionary workforce goes to the 1040 window. So there's one missionary for every 220,000 Muslims.
Wild.
So that would be like one missionary assigned to the entire city of Richmond. So there's such a need for workers, because Jesus can transform hearts and people get saved. But yeah, like you mentioned, one of only 2 theological programs in the entire nation.
Yes.
I mean, there's just a lack of workers that can help disciple and train and teach and form these men and women who are getting saved.
Yeah. It's I love how the house of prayer is such a central part in this. One of the things that we say is discipleship begins with beholding, right? And so when it comes to Mirage's story, one of the things that's highlighted for him is how much he was transformed in the presence of the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does that say about discipleship in light of the training programs that we have? Because there's so many training programs.
Yeah.
There's so many training programs. But I don't know, like, is that something that you've been thinking about? I've been thinking about the power of being able to sit. We do that here at the MAPS Global base here at HQ. And we do it in all of our other bases as well, where the house of prayer is central, but it's also central to discipleship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it really is. And I think that when you understand that, I don't know if those listening have spent time in our prayer room here in Richmond, but I think for it's a personal transformation, right? You truly understand what it means to behold and to be changed by the presence of God when you yourself spend time in the presence of God. And that is the bedrock of everything that we do here at HQ. And that's the same for all of our bases overseas, just building that same Antioch model here and overseas across the 1040 window. And it's the basis of all of our discipleship programs. At each of our bases, we have training programs similar to the one in Eurasia, and a majority of those that are in the program spend time in the prayer room. And the majority of their time is spent in the prayer room, and or a lot of their time. And that's true for our MAPS Global School students that are here in Richmond, and at each of the bases overseas is God's presence through prayer and worship changes things, and it changes our own hearts. And it's just really cool because he saw the transformation of God's presence in his own life when he was in the training program. And then he went back to his hometown and he started his own house of
100%.
prayer. He sees how necessary God's presence is and decides, I want it in my hometown too.
Yes, I want that to be the central part of discipleship, and even in the growth of the church here. Prayer, worship has to be central, i.e. a man walks in.
I know. We haven't even talked about that part.
We haven't spoken about the fact that he goes home, decides, oh, I'm actually going to start a house of prayer. Someone walks in and gets encountered.
It's like one sentence in the story, but it's crazy. I mean, he opened the prayer room, and that night a man came in off the street. He heard the gospel and got saved. So if you think about God's presence as being a light at night, all the bugs come to that one light and they're attracted to the light. In the same way, God's presence attracts people. It brings people in. The Holy Spirit grabbed this man off the street. He came in, heard the gospel, and got saved.
100%. And I think too, it's one of the things that people always say is, oh, there are people in our home countries who don't know the Lord. Why do you have to go to the 1040 window? We've got Muslims right here. We've got Buddhists right here. And we don't talk enough about lack of access.
Yeah.
It's if I'm in the States, I can walk into a church as a Muslim and ask a question and that'll be answered. No one is going to think I'm not in any danger.
Yeah.
In most of these countries, even seeking to know more is dangerous.
Yeah.
If you are a Muslim walking into a church, there's a risk to that for your life even. And so the fact that the house of prayer has also become a place where people who are wanting to encounter the Lord in a safe place can go, where the church in those local areas aren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when I was, again, in the Middle East in April, someone said to me, can you imagine if you got saved and then you didn't know a single other Christian?
Yeah.
You didn't have access to the many Bible studies that we have here in the United States, or you don't know where to go to church, or no one in your family knows Jesus. And I think about my own life. I work for a ministry, and I have the Bible in my heart language, access to lots of teaching and discipleship. And there's days that I feel discouraged about faith. And so imagine how much more for someone that gets saved, has an encounter with Jesus, but is so thirsty and hungry for the presence of God, for discipleship, for fellowship with other believers.
Yes.
So the house of prayer can be like a watering hole for people where they come and get filled up and get nourished in the presence of God in a super, what feels like a dry place, because there's just not other believers.
And set in their assignment. You know, I think even of Antioch, I think of Paul's encounter. You know, there he was on his way to Damascus and has an encounter with the Lord, and his entire life is transformed. And the things that he had to walk away from, right? He was Saul, a Pharisee. He knew the scriptures and he was persecuting the church at that time. And the Lord encounters him. He wasn't seeking God. He wasn't trying to, but the Lord encounters him, which is not an uncommon story in the Middle East. You know, God came to me in a dream and I knew that it was Jesus, and immediately a person starts following the Lord, accepts Jesus into their life. But it's now what? Where do I find a Bible? Where are fellow saints that I can worship with? And what do I do with it? What is the next? Because how many of us know that following the Lord is not just for me, right? There is an assignment for all believers, which is called the Great Commission. And so I've loved how across our bases, not only are we bringing people into fellowship and bringing them into a family, but they're also actually getting set in their assignments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is going to help bridge the gap for the next generation, right? So who will shepherd this small church that these workers started? Well, Miraj, and then the people that he encounters, the people that he disciples. And it's just a generational effect.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. Like, we want there to be local indigenous believers that are going through the training programs and then being set out on their assignments to do the things that God has laid on their heart. So I wanted to ask, didn't you get to meet Miraj also?
I did. Oh my goodness. He's phenomenal. Loves the Lord. Has so much, he has zeal, but also just a humility. And it's, I don't know, there's something wonderful about being able to see a young person who genuinely loves the Lord and is wanting to reach his generation for the Lord and has so much faith. And knowing that the work that is being done there is not up to us to finish that. Like, it's not up to the foreigner to come in and to finish that. It's not up to us, the older generation. We can leave a legacy and we can empower the local believers. And it's not just Mirage, right? There's other believers as well. We've been working in Eurasia for many, many years. And it's so beautiful to see how song is arising in that local language, to see how they are taking that mantle seriously and are preaching the gospel to their own in their mother tongue, and also just understand the cultural context. That's the dream. The dream is every nation, tribe, and tongue singing a new song to the Lord. That's the dream. That's the goal. That's the aim, because that's what the Lord says in Revelation, right? It says that every nation, tribe, and tongue will be in that throne room saying, holy, holy, holy. And so I get excited when we go to these places and we're hearing these stories and there is another generation that is right, it stirs our prayers.
Yes.
It stirs our faith. And I want to even say that the boldness to continue proclaiming the faithfulness of the Lord and even the name of the Lord is even is stirred even more, because I can see, like, that's what a testimony does. It's, Lord, not only do I know that you're able, but I see you
Yes.
doing this, doing this work, and then you are using us to do it as well. It's just, what an honor, what a privilege.
Really, truly
Yeah.
is.
Okay, do you have another story?
Yeah.
Or anything you want to highlight about Mirage's story before we move on to another one?
I do have more stories. I think
Okay.
one more just comment is, I think meeting, if you're watching this, I highly encourage you to go on a short-term trip with Maps Global, because that is what
100%.
changed the game for me.
Yeah.
It's what changes the game for many people. And getting to actually meet Miraj and others just like him, you realize what a tough and lonely road it is to be a believer in a predominantly Muslim country. And like you said, it stirs our faith, it stirs our prayers for
Yes.
for those that are trying to follow the way of Jesus.
Yes.
So super impactful. All right.
So this is a story of...
This is Muhammad.
Okay, Mo.
Okay, here we go. In April 2024, Muhammad was like a bird with a broken wing, trying to fly against the wind, trapped in a cage of severe persecution. After encountering the Lord at an Orthodox church, Muhammad experienced inhumane abuse from his strict Muslim brother in East Africa. His hands were tied and he was placed on a roof. He was starved. He was harshly beaten, resulting in a broken jaw. Then he cried out to the Lord for help, and Jesus met him on a roof, causing his small crust of bread and cup of water to not run out for 30 minutes. He ate well and was filled with a supernatural radiance that terrified his brother into releasing him. He had been freed from his cage, but he still couldn't soar. In need of healing and a community, Muhammad was searching for a spiritual flock. Still dealing with physical pain, he was also carrying mental and emotional torment. Every time he tried to share the gospel, fear and pain filled his head and kept him from preaching. He desperately needed healing and hope to continue following the Jesus he had suffered so much for. He stumbled into MAPS Global 50-hour prayer meeting. For the first time in his life, he was surrounded by a community of believers who had the freedom he was searching for. A MAPS worker prayed for healing and deliverance. As Muhammad received prayer, his jaw went back into place and fear lifted off of him.
Wild.
The pain from his oppressive persecution was completely removed. He felt like he could soar. Newly emboldened, he testified of his freedom and shared the gospel as he had so longed to do. The 50 hours prayer meeting had been a healing sanctuary for Muhammad. This once caged bird could now fly.
Well,
So powerful. So what stands out for you from this story?
man, we were talking about it earlier. We were talking about the cost of following Jesus. And I think one thing that, if you come from a country where the cost of following Jesus is like, oh, but I don't want to miss out on time with my friends at the bar, at the club, or whatever. I don't think, what strikes me here is that the cost for him was being chained. And this is a young person. We're not talking about a person that has maybe known suffering. We're not talking about a prisoner of war.
Yeah.
By his own family member, right? Beaten. And yet, in the midst of all of that, the encounter that he'd had with the Lord was so real that it was not to forsake his beliefs. It was praying for the Lord to heal him so that he could continue loving him and serving. It wasn't to walk away from the Lord. Just, it's suffering that is, for a lot of us, we just forget how much of a cost it is to follow Jesus because we don't experience it. We have freedom of religion in a lot of countries where you can choose to believe whatever you want to believe whenever you want to believe it. And I can go back and forth in my Christianity. You know what I mean? For this person, it cost him almost his life.
Costs him everything. And I think we just don't have the grit to fully understand what the cost is to follow Jesus, especially in a Muslim context. And some of our mission bases overseas actually have apartments or homes for Muslims who get saved.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, their own families will reject them
Yes.
once they receive Jesus, and they might tell their family that they've decided to follow Jesus, and their biological family sometimes will reject them and kick them out and threaten harm or
Yes.
death. And so these Muslim background believers have to live in safe homes
Yes.
provided by our workers, by MAPS Global Workers, because MAPS becomes their literal family.
Yes.
You get persecuted and kicked out by your biological family, and so that the church becomes your actual family. And that takes on a whole new meaning that we, again, can't really understand in our siloed Western lens.
Yes, and not only your family, right? So it's not as though you can be rejected by your family, but move across the street to the family friend or the neighbor.
Yes.
An entire community will
Yeah.
ostracize you.
Mm-hmm.
And that strikes me so deeply because we're so used to an easier life. Even just the cost of living overseas among a foreign people for us feels so costly.
Yeah.
And I think if you've been raised in the comfort of whatever is comfort of life for you, I can feel how that can feel so costly. But there's coming a time when it's going to be just, and we may be there already, but it's like the cost of following the Lord we're going to feel it in our flesh.
Yeah.
In the same way that this brother had felt it,
Yeah.
and the resilient church looks like Muhammad.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. And like I mentioned at the beginning, in our staff meetings, when we hear updates from our overseas bases, oftentimes some of the updates have to do with Muslims who've gotten saved, and then how it goes when they tell their family. It's a huge deal. And we start praying for these people that these Muslim background believers will pray for them, because telling their family is a huge deal. And they fear their own lives when they announce to their sister or their mother or their brother, I've decided to follow Jesus. And we'll hear stories about like a brother or sister saying like, where are you? You're always gone, because they're spending time in the prayer room.
Yes.
And having to inform your family is just, again, the cost is so high.
They're hungry. That's why they're spending so much time. They are hungry for more of the presence of the Lord.
Yes.
I love as well in the story how in God's sovereignty, he leads Muhammad into a prayer meeting with believers.
Yeah.
It's like, his brother set him free just in the right time for him to stumble into a meeting full of faith-filled believers who would stretch out their hands and pray over him. And then the Lord would heal him and heal his jaw. And his testimony is then what? His testimony is not, oh, look how much I've suffered.
Yeah.
His testimony is, look what the Lord has done. Isn't that just crazy? That's crazy.
Yeah, actually, I asked the worker that prayed for Muhammad. I asked him about that. Apparently, a friend had told Muhammad about the MAPS Global 50 Hours prayer meeting, so he caught wind of it, heard about it, and just like a light at night attracts the bugs, in the same way the presence of God attracts people who are hungry. So he came to this prayer meeting, and I don't know how many hours in they were in the 50 hours, but God's presence changes things.
Yeah.
And when our worker prayed for him, he was healed, which is crazy.
And again, so do you know whether after he got healed, do you know whether he joined the community there?
Yes.
And
My understanding is that he was able to join the workers that are living in this nation, and be able to join that family as his new family, as the church.
So now, again, he's found community and family. He's being discipled, and he's walking in healing. And next step is,
I don't know. Hopefully, he'll walk in his assignment, whatever that is. Yeah,
100%.
We should find out what that assignment is. Yeah,
just checking in. What are you up to now?
Yeah,
what's your assignment?
Well, it's so cool because some of the testimonies that we hear that are like this one, where a Muslim gets saved, starts following Jesus. for example, at our Middle East missions base, one of those Muslim background believers is now on staff
Wow.
with MAPS Global. So
And they're not the only one.
yes,
Right? They're
yeah,
not the only one. There's a few of them that are like Muslim background believers
yes,
that
now
have
on
gone through
staff.
the training program and have joined staff. And
Yes,
yeah. Wow.
so awesome.
The Lord is moving. This is
The
so
Lord is,
powerful. I I don't know. I feel so stirred in my heart just like talking about this.
yeah,
We hear it often. Again, we hear so many stories, and we have to be careful to not become not apathetic, but to just become lackadaisical
yes,
about these stories, and to even keeping them to ourselves, right? We want the world to hear what the Lord is doing, because again, the Great Commission is a mandate for the church. If you are attending a church right now, you may be 60, you may be 16, the Great Commission is your mandate. Like, that is our assignment globally as the Church of Christ, no matter where you are. And the 1040 window, that region of the earth is hungry. They are crying out. They are hungry. They are ripe and ready to receive the good news, but they need people to share that good news with them. They are ripe and ready, looking for fellowship, asking the Lord for people to come alongside them, and we can be those people,
yeah.
right?
So if someone's feeling stirred by these stories, what would you encourage them to do?
Oh my goodness, there's so much to do. Firstly, you can pray. Pray. Secondly, you can join the MAPS Global School if you feel there's an assignment in your life to go to the nations, or you just have a yes in your heart to say, Lord, here I am, send me to where the gospel has not yet gone. Send me. I want to go and disciple. I want to go plant churches. I want to go and build a tabernacle of praise, of unceasing worship to you. Join MAPS Global School. Apply for the school. You can also be a sender. You know, we have so many people in our midst that have that assignment over their life, and you can be a pipeline that comes alongside and sends people overseas to establish these tabernacles of worship. And then you can also, what else can they do?
Yeah, I love those answers. I think we as believers have responsibility, and that is we have a mandate to be part of the Great Commission. And I would just encourage, if you're watching this, to ask the Lord, what role is my role in the Great Commission? Is it to pray? Is it to apply to MAPS Global School? Is it to give? Is it to, it doesn't have to be with MAPS, but just
50 hours. Like, what do I do?
totally. Yeah. Come on a 50 hours trip. I mean, we just say, ask the Lord what your role might be in stories and testimonies like this, and be obedient and just take one step toward being a part of completing the Great Commission.
Yeah. And I've just been thinking that a lot of us know Apostle Paul, but it's something that we talk about his story a lot here, because we're all about Antioch, right? We want to be an Antioch. We want to have people. We want it to look like what Antioch looked like in the book of Acts. And I think about him all the time, that we talked about him earlier, you know, he had an encounter with the Lord, got radically saved, and then needed a people. And without those disciples coming alongside him, the ones who had walked with Jesus, he actually doesn't start walking in his assignment. You know, he needed Barnabas to come and say, hey, you're sitting on the sidelines making tents, but that's actually not your story.
Yeah.
And he brought him back to Antioch. And as they were praying, then the Lord, in community, the Lord then said, set apart from me, you know, this one. And so I agree with you. We all have a role to play. And just that asking the Lord, what is my role in the Great Commission, I think also gives the Lord the permission to send you in the way that he would desire. There's like a submission to that, which I really love. So yeah, these are beautiful stories.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It stirs my faith and stirs my heart too. It's like, this is why we do what we do, is to continue to hear more testimonies like this. And again, these are real people that we get to spend time with when we're overseas, and that we get to hear updates on from our workers when they share with us on during the staff meeting. And So it's just encouraging to remember, like these are hearts and souls that are
Yeah.
behind these blog posts. And there's a lot more. Look on our Maps Global blog for more stories and testimonies to
Yeah.
be encouraged.
For sure. And we're going to start sharing more and more stories on the podcast as well. We're just going to start doing more episodes and segments where we're sharing testimonies. So keep listening.
Yeah.
And
Keep tuning in.
keep tuning in. We hope that you guys were blessed and that your heart is stirred. We're so grateful for you and we love you all. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Maps Global podcast. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and check out previous episodes. Have you seen our 50 Hours documentary? Watch it now. And don't forget to sign up for our email newsletters.